Welcome to WGT Golf on Twitch. This is keviseeb, your host. Today we'll be playing the front nine at the best of famous holes. This is a compilation of 9 holes from famous courses. You've seen them on TV, and if you happen to be taking a nap while watching the TV show that had these courses on it, you'll get to see some of the holes that you missed while you were taking that nap. So on the first one, this will be at the Bethpage Black course, which, as you can see by the warning, is not really designed for beginning golfers. It is certainly no St. Andrews or Kiowa in terms of ease of getting on the green. Some of the shots are going to require some either lengthy second shots or backing off on the drive and trying to put balls in the fairway as opposed to trying to get the maximum distance. But again, this is not all at Bethpage. This is just one of 9 different courses that we'll be on in the next few minutes. So let's start off by taking a look at the aerial view of it and go down here, give it a little click, and you'll see this is a sharp dogleg right. And with the wind helping like this, it is possible to cut this corner a bit. You'll notice it's down 42, 43 feet, depending on where you're at. And I know this driver is capable of about 300 yards in the air, so give it full backspin and fire up Big Bertha here. And that was a late enough hit to where it might not make the fairway. But let's hope for the best. And it does. Okay, so we're 98 yards out. And if you can do one thing on a difficult course, it would be to try and plan ahead on your shots so that you can get almost a full club to use the next shot. For instance, there, I typically try and place it so, again, depending on the wind, I can either use the 75-yard club or the 100-yard club. In this case, we'll switch to the 100. And just put a tiny bit of backspin on it. This is not going to be a full swing. Allowed for the wind a little bit here. And let's see if we can be somewhat close on the meter. Now again, it's 98 yards away, so we're going to play it just a little bit under that because the wind is helping, and there's not much vertical rise to the green. It's only 4 feet up. And that is an acceptable shot. We are very loud on this system here. Hang on a second. See if we can cut that volume down a little bit. All right. All right, not much to this putt. Slight tiny bit right to left. We'll just put it on the right edge there. Give it enough horsepower to get in the hole. All right, always good to start off with a birdie. And one thing it's good to do is to go ahead and click on the handicap, and that will tell you how difficult the holes are going to be along the way. If you'll notice, there's a lot of single-digit numbers here. These are, for instance, hole number 7 is the most difficult hole on that particular course, and then on down the line. So we have a lot of the hardest holes on these courses. And in the case of this one, now these are 2 different courses. That's why you have both of them at number 10. But each one of those is the 10th hardest hole on their respective courses. All right, so the next one we're going to is the Congressional Country Club, which this is the rather famous par 5 that has a lake right in front of it. And depending on what rank you are in WGT, if the wind's behind you, it's fairly easy to get to the green in 2. But as you see today, the wind is pretty much dead in our face. So I'll be lucky to pull a 290-yard drive out of this. And hitting it late doesn't help either. But it's on the fairway. As long as you're in the short stuff, that's good. So we're 297 to the pin. Obviously, a 3-wood would be capable of going right in that creek. So we're going to play a little intelligently here and drop down to a 215-yard club. We know it's not going to get there because of the wind, and just play a safe shot here. And again, ideally, you play for your next shot. I happen to be rather fond of my 50-yard club, which is perfect for this shot. Allow for the wind a little bit. And we're going to hit it wide open. Hopefully it won't go too far. And that ended up well. Again, this is just a little bit downhill, right edge. A pro would call this a tap in. So we got our second birdie. Let's see if we can keep that trend going. Internet problems aside, one nice advantage to having the WGT game is that if you have a connection problem or you lose the game midstream, it allows you to go back to the lobby and just simply resume your game. Other games you would tend to lose the game, basically. You have to start over. And as this game is counting towards my progression through the ranks, in other words, there are points being added, it's nice not to have to restart a game where you've already gained a certain amount of points. All right, so on to the third hole. This is at Kiowa Island, which is one of the two good courses to play when you're beginning WGT, because the fairways are reachable, and even at the lower ranks, you're not left with too many shots that require a lot of thought off the green. And this is just pretty much straightforward par 4 here. And we're going to play it a little bit safe here. This shot is typically going to leave about 70 some yards. And since I hit it late, it's going to be more like 80, but we'll see. The advantage is it does have that nice little hill to roll your ball down. And because it did roll down the hill, we are in fact close to the 75-yard club. We are into the wind pretty heavy again, so in that case, we'll just give it full forward roll on the ball. That lowers the trajectory of the ball and will allow it, it won't go as far before it hits the ground, but it will not balloon up into the wind. And hopefully this won't be too long. So maybe on that shot, half forward roll would have been better. Instead of having a 7.5-foot putt, have one that'd be half that distance. All right, so we got a little bit of right to left here we have to figure into the putt. And there's no secret to this, just time on the club. So 7.8 feet down one, that's about a 7-foot putt. Again, every movement of my putter, which you see right there, is 8 feet. So we're going to do that 8 feet. And if I guessed it right, which I didn't, So it missed the hole on the bottom side, which means obviously I did not figure enough break in it. And if you've ever watched Johnny Miller on NBC, you will know by now that he cautions people on trying not to miss it on the low side. Always, if you're going to miss it on the high side. So now we go to the next hole, our third hole, and this is a par 3. This is at St. Andrews. And normally St. Andrews is very windy. This is a great course to learn how to handle wind. And this is one of those courses where sometimes it's surprising how far you need to go, particularly with the longer clubs. Now, again, if you're at pro, tour pro, master level, you're not going to be this far away from the green. The tees are much further up, so you don't have to figure the kind of travel distance sideways because of the wind. All right, the wind's basically sideways, so keep in mind when it's blowing this hard, the ball has to travel further because you're hitting it in an arc. So I'm going to leave it there. These are relatively new clubs to me, so I'm still learning them. These are the max clubs that give you much better control over the meter. And I'm going to just back it off a tiny bit here and hope it's long enough. This is one hole you do not want to be short on, because if you get down that hill, which barely made it up over it, the ball will roll backwards, and you're going to end up with a net effective putt of, it could be up to 60 to 70 feet because of the uphill rise. So it's better to be a little long here back in this area, as long as you don't go over the green. All right, a little left to right, knowing that I seem to be missing on the low side here recently. So that's 11 feet. So there's moving to the putter is 8, and there's 16. So we'll back down to about 14 or so, 13. And now we miss it on the high side. All right, I never promised a putting exposition here. All right, so that's 2 birdies missed that we should have had so far. And moving along. Let's see, this is Royal St. George's, one of their more difficult par 4 holes. You can see it's a handicap 3 if you're playing that whole course. And this one's a little unique too, particularly for the lower ranked players, because this hill right here, which for a tournament player, I mean for a legend or tour legend, it's 255 yards. When you're in the Tour Pro Master, Tour Master, that distance is decreased. So you have to have a driver with a little bit of horsepower behind it to clear this hole. So the safe bet is to always try and go for this area if you're a lower ranked player. And again, I have the wind with me here, so this Big Bertha driver that I have is capable of this kind of distance, even with this wind, well, particularly because of this wind. And I'm going to aim over here on the left side, give it plenty of room. Also, it is a dogleg left, so the further to the left of the fairway you are, technically the closer you are to the pin. And again, because it's somewhat of a helping wind, it gave a little bit of backspin. Oh, I hit that horribly late. Hopefully that will stay in the fairway. There we go. Well, that was a perfect example of why you should play it safe. And all the WGT golfers I've talked to, the biggest tendency is to hit late, not early. So if you have that tendency, it's best to set it up to where you can hit it late, not hurt yourself, such as that case. All right, we're going to go over here, give it plenty of room. Reason being that if you hit in this area here, the tendency is for the ball to roll towards the cup anyway. If you hit, there's a little ridge right here that the ball will roll away if you hit too far over here. I actually can go a little more. The thing not to do is you'll notice this section right here. See where the green's darker? There's a hill right here going down this way sharply. And there is very few places I can think of that are worse to have to putt from than this section right here. It can be a real nuisance. In fact, if you hit on the hill here, it's best to hope and pray that the ball will roll off the green so you have an iron shot to the pin. All right. We're going to play a backed off because the green does slope from the midsection down towards the rear. We want to try and put a little backspin on it to stop the ball. We're 184 yards away. It's only up 6 feet, so it's virtually a level shot. Wind isn't really helping or hurting, but it is going to take a little bit of distance. So I'm going to hit it about that far, which is going to be just under 190. With full backspin, that's going to take a little bit of yardage away. Managed to get a perfect hit on it. And you can see how the ball rolls downhill. If you're lucky enough to get a birdie on this hole, you're doing very well. All right, a little left to right here. Let's see if we can miss this one too high too. All right, so that's 11 feet, basically flat. We'll go up to 8. There's 16 right there. 15, 14, roughly 13. And missed it on the high side. We all have bad putting days. This is just one of them. Trick is not to think about it, learn what you did wrong, and move on. All right, so that was 3 very good missed opportunities. All right, we're back to Kiowa Island. This is a par 3. This is going to be one of those holes where all of us remember that we've at least lost several balls here. This is one of those, as you can see, that if you hit late at all, you are going to go in the drink, particularly if there's a left to right wind. And we're a good 50 yards longer at the legend category. Sometimes the hole is back here in the far side of the green, and that's about a 245-yard shot for a legend. Of course, there are clubs available at later levels that allow you to hit there. All right, we're going to play it safe, go maybe a little too far left. It's a pretty good backstop behind this hole here. It does rise up, so you don't have to worry about the ball rolling away from you a lot. All right, we're going to reconsider this and go with a 215. I know it sounds short. Put a little bit of forward roll on it. I am using the RZN black balls, which give the furthest distance of any ball that's on WGT. So 215 on some holes I've seen go 230. Even though that was late, it wasn't too late. The ball's going to be safe. It just may not be long enough. But it got a very good bounce. That's perfectly acceptable. All right, let's see if we can not miss another one. Just going to go up to 8 feet. And we finally get the birdie that we earned. right, waiting for it to load here. All right, now we're back to, this is St. Andrews. This is a nice little par 5 here. And there are, once we get up towards the green, there are a few unique things to learn there. All right, we don't have a very cooperative wind here. And anyone in the lower rankings, oh, that was a horrible hit. But it should be all right. But anyone in the lower rankings here has undoubtedly had a problem. Once we flip screens here, we can look. You've undoubtedly had a problem. Let's see if we can get a better view. Well, no, we don't have the right camera. All right, just right here at the very bottom of the screen is a lot of fescue, heavy rough, and sometimes, particularly with the wind directly at you, as you can see, even for a legend player, you need to hit a 200 in the air to clear it. And even with the tees being moved up for the lower ranked players, it is sometimes very difficult to get the ball into this section of the fairway. So another option would be, let's go over to the screen on the right here. Another option would be to hit it over here. You can't get a good view of it on the screen, but it is shorter. And when you go back to where you are hitting from, right here, you can see it over here. So that's only 152 yards. Even for the master or tour master, it's easier to get to this side than it is to try and go full length towards the pin. Now, I don't have to worry about that because I have a club that has the capability of going that far. Hopefully won't hit it late again. Well, hit it late anyway. Oh, got a very good roll. Sometimes you get too good of a roll and the ball ends up on the green in this section. And that is not a very desirable putt. I'll just put it to you that way. It's severely uphill, almost 2.5 feet. The net effective length of that putt is close to 70 feet or so. But typically, if your ball hits on the mound here in front of the green or even on the green, 9 times out of 10 it's going to roll back off the green, so you have a safe iron shot on. So that's good news. And this green does slope away from the hole, so you want to try not to go long. And even though you'll talk to people who say you should not use a 50-yard club less than, say, 70% of its capacity, I use it for anything from a 10-yard shot up, and it does seem to be consistent. Maybe that's because it's one of the more advanced clubs. Maybe it doesn't work that well with a you know, the standard starter clubs, for instance. But it seems to work well with these max clubs. All right, so we're 23 yards, and over time I've learned that that's about here. Even with the wind, I'm going to back it off just a little so it doesn't go too far. And I hit it early, but that should be all right. That's close enough. And again, this is one of those holes you can try and go for the green in 2 if it makes you feel better. But 9 times out of 10, the ball's going to roll clean off the green into the back area, and you're going to end up with a shot that was even more difficult than the one that I just had. All right, little measly 4-footer here. Hopefully it won't miss. So that's a good birdie hole to think of. All right, back to Congressional, and this is an incredibly long par 4, and it has a water hazard on the right side. This is another favorite hole to lose balls in. For even the shortest tees, it's 465 yards, and that's not a short distance when you have starter clubs. When you think about it, if you're hitting into the wind, Legend, which is black here, and Tour Legend, which would be the blue ones, notice they're the same length. That's going to take, even if you have a 300-yard drive, you still have over a 200-yard shot to the green. And we have a wind that's not being very helpful. The only advantage to this hole is that it is downhill to in the tee-off area. All right, so that's going to leave us a rather lengthy second shot, and you'll notice that it's uphill. The advantage to this green is if you can get over this little mound right here where it says 224, there's a hill, and probably half the time you're going to be on the downhill side, and if you're really good or lucky, you'll be able to get on the top hill side here and actually have a legitimate shot at birdie. All right, so we're going to guess at a 235 here. Which I think is about that much. And I know it hit early, but notice, see, it got up over the hill, and it's going to go right on by the pin off the green. But again, you're better to be up here past it just a little bit. Even if you go down here, it's not that bad of a rough. All right, so we have a little 6-yard chip here. Down 4 inches, so you don't want to hit this 6 yards. You want to hit it about, I'm thinking 4.5, and let it roll down. And that'll do nicely. Again, on this hole, a par is something to be proud of. All right, coming up on the last hole on the best of famous holes on WGT. And I apologize, we are going to be back to Bethpage one more time here. This is a very interesting, little bit dogleg left-hander. And there isn't a whole lot of distance difference between amateur all the way up through Tour Legend players. If you'll notice, it's only about 30 yards, just over 30 yards difference. And the trick to this hole is to realize that there's a greatly sloping downhill. Let's look at it from the green point of view. You'll notice the hole right here. And let's say that you have a 260-yard club and you're master, tour master, pro or tour pro level. You're going to have in your bag a club that could easily hit this hill. So the trick is to try and get it to roll down the hill. It will go 30, 40 yards and give you a relatively short shot into the green. This is a good birdie hole, in other words. 2 pin locations. Here is one of them. The other one's up here in the corner, depending on what setting it is. The green does slope downhill as you're facing the green from left to right. So you want to try and hit above the pin in either of the pin locations. So we're going to go back to the view here. Let me switch to this view. All right, we got a wind that's helping us here. Now again, I have a driver that will go about 290 in the air, particularly with the wind helping, it go to 300. So I'm going to go down there at the bottom and try and stay on the fairway. Full backspin and give her a whack at it. I don't mind hitting that a little early, depending on how well it flies. And that's about as close as you can get to the rough. But that's a good length for a 75-yard club. Just backed off a little bit. All right. Now again, gonna try and have the ball land just to the left of the pin. Usually better not to make such promises when you're playing this game, but let's see if we can do it. And back off to where it's about 70 yards. Let the wind help a little bit. That's not a horrible hit. I don't think it's going to hit above. I took a little bit too much off of it. But that leaves a little relatively straight in 9-footer. See if we can not miss it this time. So there's 8 feet, and I'm going to go a couple more just to make sure it has legs to get there. And I hit it too early, and it misses on the low side. Johnny Miller would be mad. All right, so we'll pull a par out of this. So that is the front 9 of the best of famous holes on WGT. Hope you enjoyed the tour. And we will see you around the links. And on your way out, if you don't mind, click on the follow button. That's always helpful. There's also a donate button there if you feel so inclined. So thank you again for joining keviseeb on Twitch, playing WGT Golf. We'll see you around the links.